The Smurl family moves in. In the summer of 1973, the Smurl family, Jack, Janet, and their two daughters, were eager to begin a new chapter in their lives. They moved into a large home on Chase Street in West Pittston, Pennsylvania, a quiet neighborhood where they hoped to lay down roots. The house, with its old-world charm and grand architecture, seemed perfect. It was exactly what they'd been searching for, a spacious, suburban retreat. But it didn't take long for the family to realize they were not alone. At first, the disturbances were subtle, small things, easily explained away. There was a strange, cold spot near the staircase that seemed to appear out of nowhere. Doors would creak open without explanation. And in the dead of night, faint sounds of tapping or scraping would echo through the house, like someone was trying to get in. But those initial disturbances were nothing compared to what was to come. The first significant event occurred in the spring of 1974. Janet, the mother, was sitting quietly in the living room when she heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps from above. It was a clear night, no wind, no outside noise, just the soft thudding of something or someone walking overhead. She called out, thinking perhaps one of the girls had left their room. No response. Janet climbed the stairs to investigate, but found nothing. The house was empty. It was a chilling moment, but the family brushed it off. Maybe it was just the house settling, they thought. They couldn't have known that this was just the beginning of a terrifying journey that would span over 15 years. Soon, it wasn't just the sounds that unnerved them. The atmosphere inside the house began to shift. A heavy, oppressive feeling would descend without warning, leaving the Smurls feeling anxious, unsettled, and exhausted. The feeling of being watched became overwhelming, and the family began to feel like they were under siege. And then came the smell, a foul, rancid odor that filled the house like a rotting carcass. It was not a smell that could be scrubbed away with any amount of cleaning. No matter how often the family aired out the house or used air fresheners, the stench remained, lingering in the air like something ancient and decayed. But it wasn't until the violent manifestations began that the Smurls realized they were dealing with something far more sinister than they had ever imagined. The violent encounters begin. As the months passed, the paranormal activity in the Smurl home grew more violent and more frequent. What had started as strange noises and odd smells evolved into full-on physical assaults. It began one night when Jack Smurl was watching TV in the living room. He was alone, the house silent except for the hum of the television. Without warning, he felt something cold brush against his face, a sudden chilling sensation that made his skin crawl. He turned around, but no one was there. Thinking it was just a draft, Jack tried to dismiss it, but it soon became clear that something far darker was at play. Over the next few weeks, Jack and Janet would both experience more physical attacks. Scratches, burns, and bruises would appear seemingly out of nowhere. Janet, in particular, seemed to be targeted. Her body would bear inexplicable marks, as if someone had physically struck her. One morning, she woke up to find a deep scratch on her arm that she couldn't explain, and worse, a sensation of being gripped by an invisible hand that left her in a state of terror. But physical assault wasn't the only form of harassment. The house itself seemed to come alive with malevolent energy. Furniture would shift on its own, heavy chairs and tables sliding across the floor as if moved by unseen hands. At times, the house seemed to shake, the walls rattling as though some unseen force was trying to break through them. The most terrifying part of the haunting, however, was the eerie, otherworldly growls that began emanating from the house. These low, guttural sounds were often described as being animalistic in nature, deep, vibrating noises that would reverberate through the walls. At first, the family thought it was perhaps an animal trapped in the walls, but there was no sign of any creatures when they searched the house. It was as if the growls came from the very foundation of the home itself. The Smurls were no longer able to ignore the fact that something far beyond the ordinary was happening. The attacks grew more frequent, and the violent presence in the house seemed to escalate with each passing day. The family tried to stay strong, but the terror they experienced began to take its toll. Janet and Jack started to feel like they were losing their grip on reality. They had no idea how much worse things would get, or what kind of evil they were truly dealing with. The Warrens arrive. In the face of such overwhelming terror, the Smurls knew they needed help. It was in 1975, after nearly a year of relentless torment, that they reached out to Ed and Lorraine Warren, the famed paranormal investigators. The Warrens were no strangers to haunted locations, having been involved in numerous high-profile cases, most notably the Amityville Horror. But even they were shaken by the scale of what they encountered in the Smurl home. Ed Warren, known for his no-nonsense attitude and deep belief in the supernatural, was immediately concerned by the intensity of the activity. In his professional opinion, this was no ordinary haunting. The Smurls weren't just dealing with a poltergeist or restless spirits, they were facing a demonic presence, something dark and dangerous that fed off their fear. The fact that the entity had physically attacked the family, leaving marks on their bodies, was a sure sign that they were dealing with something beyond human comprehension. Lorraine Warren, a clairvoyant, confirmed Ed's suspicions. She sensed an overwhelming, malevolent energy in the house, something ancient, something evil. But what was truly terrifying was the realization that this entity wasn't just haunting the Smurls, it was hunting them. The demon seemed to know their every fear, every vulnerability, and it was growing stronger with each passing day. The Warrens attempted several exorcisms, bringing in a team of priests to help expel the demonic force. But each time they tried to perform the ritual, the activity escalated. The house would shake, objects would fly across rooms, and the demon's voice, low and guttural, could be heard mocking the family. During one particularly harrowing exorcism, Ed Warren was physically thrown across the room by the entity, a clear sign of the demon's power. Despite their best efforts, the Warrens were unable to fully rid the Smurl family of the demon's grip. In fact, the more the family fought back, the stronger the entity seemed to grow. It fed on their fear, their desperation, and their exhaustion. And as time went on, the Smurls began to lose hope. Would they ever be free of this nightmare? A legacy of fear. By 1989, after 15 years of unimaginable torment, the Smurl family was left with no choice but to leave their home on Chase Street. Though the haunting had never truly stopped, it seemed that the worst of it had subsided. But the scars, both physical and emotional, remained. The Smurls' departure didn't bring an end to the terror. Even after moving to a new home, they continued to experience strange phenomena. Sights, sounds, and sensations that reminded them of the horror they had left behind. The demon that had tormented them for so long was still with them in some form. And though they sought peace in their new lives, they couldn't escape the memories of what they had endured. The Smurl haunting remains one of the most terrifying and well-documented cases of paranormal activity in history. The violent nature of the attacks, the involvement of the Warrens, and the sheer persistence of the haunting make it an enduring case study in the world of the supernatural. But the question remains, What was it that terrorized the Smurls for so long? Was it truly a demonic force, or something more sinister beyond human comprehension? To this day, the house on Chase Street remains vacant, a silent witness to the terror that once occurred within its walls. For those who believe, the Smurl Haunting is a chilling reminder that some evil cannot be explained. It lurks in the shadows, waiting for its next victim, ready to make them question what is real and what is not.